Buffalo, South Carolina.
What's that close to?
Spartanburg, Greenville. Um,
Oh,
okay, let me go off here and let me go up to here and let me tell everybody we're live. Let me introduce myself and hello, I'm Jerry McKee. Welcome to Prime Time. We have got a great guest for you today. I tell you what, T. Graham Brown, and I tell you, he's an amazing guy. I've read a lot about him, and he's even written a book that's supposed to be coming out right. And so we'll talk to him a little bit about that too. And if I write a book, it's gonna be a little stick people. So, but I'm glad you're here. Let me switch over and let me put his lower third up there to him. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is T. Graham Brown. Now, just for one-on-one on me, do you mind if I call you T? Because I noticed that a lot of them called you
yeah,
T.
that's fine.
Well, that's great. And you know, I was doing some little research and things like that. But most of all, I like to ask when you was growing up, did you sing a lot? I mean, how did you know you was getting in the groove of a singer as a small kid growing up?
Oh, I didn't have a clue. I was playing baseball. I was playing outside, riding my bike. My mama said I just used to run around singing, and of course I sang at church, but I didn't think about making a living singing till I think I was 18 when I started singing for a living. I was going to Georgia. I had grown up down in South Georgia. My family's from right outside of Athens. My daddy
Oh,
went
okay.
down to South Georgia and started a grain elevator down there. So I lived down there basically my boyhood years, about 70 miles south of Macon, in a little town called Araby. There was 300 people there, really small.
Oh, that's a small small.
I, I had a fun childhood. That was back when kids got out and played.
Oh gosh, yes, we had bicycles and all. And I read something where you would have a transistor radio for people, young people now don't know what a transistor radio is, that you used to listen to, and you and I are around the same age, and I remember, they progressed from the little bitty transistor radio, which we thought was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah. I had a little one, you know, basically fit in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
Mine was a six transistor, but Santa Claus brought me a 10 transistor a few years later. It was a little bit bigger, but it could pick up stations farther away than the six transistor. But man, I listened to that radio all the time. And then at night, I I'd get up under the covers and scroll through the AM dial really, really slowly, and I could pick up stations from far away, like 7 or 8 states away, and
Yeah.
that was kind of like
Uh,
uh,
well,
my vehicle.
yeah.
My vehicle to get out of that little town, and I would dream about, I wonder what Chicago's like, or I wonder what Nashville or New Orleans or wherever. And boy, I listened to that radio so much, man. That was a big part of my life.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about technology, even back then, they start off small, and of course, you only had AM. I got
That's
my,
all.
yeah, that was the stations, the AMs. The FM was kind of like you find in maybe some of the elevators, music back then.
Yeah, I never had an FM till I got on up, sophomore in college.
Yeah,
I, I went to Georgia. I moved back from South Georgia. I moved back up to Athens and finished high school in Athens, and then I went to Georgia and I was playing baseball, but I wasn't getting to play. I was sitting on the bench. I never had sat on the bench in my life. I'd always been on all the all-star teams, and but when you get to the SEC, competition gets a little more stiff. So
well,
I had a buddy from high school his name was Dirk Howell, D-I-R-K, and he had a guitar. And you remember when you're in high school and somebody's mom and daddy'd go out of town and all the kids would go over there and have a party and drink beer and whatever, and then clean the house up real good so that hopefully their parents come back to a clean house and wouldn't know that there was ever a party there. So we used to have those kind of parties, and my buddy would play guitar and I would sing for, just for our friends. And I had a buddy that also worked, got I got into Georgia, and I was a sophomore at Georgia. I had a friend of mine from high school that worked at the local Holiday Inn, and he called us up and said, "Hey, man, there's a bar upstairs, but nobody ever sings in it or anything. Maybe I can get you and Dirk an audition." And we didn't know what an audition was, and so we went in there one afternoon. It was in September of '73, and we sang this guy 3 or 4 songs, and he said, "I'll hire you. Y'all play Tuesday through Saturdays. I'll pay you $150 a week." And we had no idea. We didn't know any songs. We didn't know nothing about nothing, and it was during fall baseball practice. It was in September, and I sang over there for that guy, and then I went to baseball practice. And at baseball practice, I talked to my coach. He was a grandfatherly guy, Jim Watley. He was a great guy, and I told him, "Coach, all I've ever wanted to do is play baseball, but I can't stand sitting on the bench. And I just left the Holiday Inn. I sang this guy a few songs, and he told me he'd pay me to sing, and I just don't know what to do. What do you think I ought to do?" And uh, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "Tony," my name's Tony. He said, "Tony, if I was you, I'd go sing." So that was the end of my baseball career and the beginning of my singing career. So I've never done anything uh, since then but sing for
So,
a
so,
living.
so when they paid you the $150, that's when you became a professional because it's someone paid
Yeah,
you.
it was seems like it was the 1st of October of '73 we started, and never have quit. My buddy went on, and I split off from him, and he went on. He's still singing. He majored in uh, finance, and but he never had a job in finance. He's down in Florida, living somewhere, singing still.
Now you went to the University of Georgia, and you went in for finance too, didn't you? Didn't wasn't that was going to be your major
Now, well,
or
if you want to
business?
call it, if you want to call it a major, it was personnel management.
Oh,
My,
okay.
my daddy got a degree in banking and finance from Georgia, but no, I never was in the finance school. That was pretty hard major, I think.
Well, I think you made the right choice. Now, you used to go there and sing some at the university, didn't you? To some of the kids there.
Oh man, that's what we did. We sang for the kids. Our whole following was students, all fraternity and sorority kids. That's who we sang to.
Uh,
And then we would play fraternity parties and sorority parties and all that.
now, you recently got inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, and how was that sprung on you? I mean, did they call you up, send you a letter, or how did they say, "Hey, guess what?"
I was I have a show on Sirius XM that I've been doing. I'm starting my 6th year,
Mhm.
and I always have a guest on it. And uh, Vince Gill was my guest, and we were down at the Sirius XM studios here in Nashville, and we were talking. I was told Vince is an old friend of mine for since the mid '80s, and we've goofed off together and golfed together, and we're real good friends. And so I was interviewing him, and then he had his guitar and he'd sing a song, and he'd play and I'd sing, just and talk about whatever we felt like talking about. And they had a studio audience that day, and
Mm-hmm.
so I talked to him. His publicist had told me I had 30 minutes with him, and he had to leave and go to another thing. And so I'm watching the clock on the wall, and it got to be 33 minutes. And I started winding up the interview, hey, Vince, thanks for coming. It's been fun, that, blah, blah, blah. And he said, wait a minute. Uh, how many times have you done the Grand Ole Opry? And I said, about 400. And he said, well, this whole thing's been a setup. The Opry sent me over here to ask you if you'd like to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. Man, I cried like a baby. It's the biggest thing that ever happened to Sheila and me. And then later on, Vince, they had a special thing at the Opry on May the 3rd, and Vince formally inducted me, and it was just really something else, man. It was total surprise.
And you got to put that on the wall yourself. Didn't you get to screw it in the wall yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have this wall when you walk in they have what you call the artist entrance in the back
Uh-huh.
of the building. And when you walk in, there's a wall of plaques with all the opera members' names on these brass plaques. And yeah, that's part of the ritual. They give a screwdriver and some screws, and you screw your plaque into the wall. It was pretty cool, really.
Yeah. Now, I think I heard you was talking to someone, and you talked about, was it uh, Bootsy, that put their name upside downwards?
Oh, that was Gary Mule Deer, the
Oh,
comedian.
okay.
Yeah, he put his, well, he claimed it was an accident, but I know it wasn't.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Uh,
yeah,
but
it's it's really cool. You walk in the back door, and as you walk by, at least I do, when I walk past the wall, I reach over and touch that thing and say a prayer. It's pretty neat.
well, before I forget, Monty Allen told me to tell you hello. He played with the Alan Jackson.
Yes, yes,
He
yes.
lives up in Nashville up there also. But
Well, if you talk to him, tell him I said hey back.
I would definitely do that. And I got to talk to Richard Shaban last week, and Oak Ridge Boys. He said hello also.
Yeah, well, they're great friends of mine.
Yes, yes, I knew they were. Now, you sang a lot of songs with Kenny Roger. A lot
Well,
of shows.
yeah, I did about 300 with.
Wow. And I remember going to seeing Kenny Rogers, and I think it was Crystal Gale was in concert in Charlotte one time back in, gosh, it was probably in late '70s or somewhere in there. And but when I read that, I said, "Wow, you've been with him a lot of times." And uh, now, were you singing duet with him, or was some of the background, or
No,
both?
I would do a show, and then I was his opening act. I'd go out and do a
Okay,
show, and then he would close the show. And a lot of times there was three of us on there. It would be either me and Ronnie Millsap and Kenny, or me and Glenn Campbell and Kenny. There were a lot of middle acts like Lee
yeah.
Greenwood and Eddie Rabbitt, Reba McEntire. Dolly would be on a lot of them. Um, there were a lot of people that worked on that tour.
Well, you was really blessed to meet all these stars. I just can imagine uh, how that had to just to even boost your your career and your singing, that they respected you so much. Hey, we got to get this guy to to sing here and to open up. Now, now I've always heard growing up like that, T Graham Brown. Now, is your band, is it just a Graham Brown and the band, or do you have your own backup, the orchestra band that you
Yeah,
sing with?
yeah. No, I have a band. I have a band and a bus and all that hillbilly stuff.
Oh,
I still go out and do shows, and I do fairs, festivals,
right.
theaters, a little bit of everything, churches. Um,
Yeah, I follow you on your Facebook page too, and I see in all these pictures and all these things that you're doing. I says, wow, you had to slow down a bit. You still going just as wide open as you was in the beginning.
well, hey man, that's what I do.
Now,
It's my job, but I love my job. I tell people I got the greatest job in the world. I get to make people happy for a living, so it really makes me happy too.
and it shows. I interviewed Hank Parker, which won the bass uh, uh, championship, and nationals, and he told me, he says, I'm a professional fisherman. That's all I know. He said that from the beginning, I just all I know is how to fish. I says, that's got to be the greatest job in the world. Says, what do you do? I fish, you know, and just like you, but the difference there, you got a lot of hard work that people don't realize that you put in to your music and to the writing of your music.
Well, I mean, it's not easy. It's a fun job, but it's not really easy. There's an old saying about riding a bus that they don't pay you for the gig, they pay you for getting to the gig. So there's a lot of we fly a lot and we ride the bus, sleep on the bus. It can be tiring. And I'll be 70 years old in October. So I don't work as hard as I used to. Thank goodness I don't have to. And but I stay busy, man. I enjoy doing my radio show, and I get to be in a movie every now and then. And I cut my own grass. I like doing that. We're just regular people.
Yeah, well, that's myself. I'm me and you're, like I said, the same age. I'm 69, and I'll be 70 next July, but close to the age, and I'll say very, very active and busy. Uh, um, Work like three different jobs, doing different things, just stuff I love doing, and this is one of them I love doing. So I can, when I retire soon from one job, then I expand on this even more. Now you got to, I mean, you got so many wonderful friends. Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and I mean these are just country stars that we grew up with, and I grew up with, and their lifestyle. It's just almost like we grew up with y'all, and know almost when you're a star like yourself, everybody knows everything about you. you know, and and that can be a little bit intimidating some because I got to interview Loretta Lynn, and she told me one of the worst things about traveling and things that she had to stay on the bus to eat and to do things. She couldn't just go out into the flea market sometimes and all because of people coming up to her and things, and she couldn't really enjoy it. And I know the same way with you. Sometimes you got to be draw back a little bit because you need your time, correct?
Well, Loretta is very much more recognizable than I'll ever be, but I can see what she's talking about. People don't bother me though, really. Every now and then somebody will get on my nerves, but by and large, people don't bother me. They uh, give me my space. And then when you're in Nashville, I think people around Nashville are pretty much used to seeing celebrities around.
Right.
So they don't like I don't have people coming up to me in the grocery store or anything like that very much. Every now and then, but um, I grew up with and got to know and toured with and recorded with uh, I call them, and a lot of them are dead. I call them the one name people: Willie, Waylon, Merle, George and Tammy, Conway and Loretta, Kenny and Dolly, Johnny and June, all those people that you don't even have to say their last name, you know.
That, that's right. And
So
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I came up at a great time in the history of country music.
Mhm.
Most of my hits were in the 80s, and that was just a really cool time.
It definitely was. A little tidbit about Dolly Parton, where I live at here. My wife is from Lockhart, South Carolina, and she has roots there in Lockhart. Her grandpa was a minister, and they were in that little small town that my wife is. So she kind of got some roots, and she got some kinfolk still living down that way too. So
Dolly's special.
I tell you what, she is well, all those folks, Reba and all of them that you mentioned was just they're just phenomenal. To me, country music, okay, I like a lot of it now, but it seemed like it had some meaning, some good stories back then. It told a more in-depth story. And now, let me ask you about your wife. Where did you meet your wife at?
I met her in
Sheila?
Athens,
Sheila,
and yeah,
correct?
I met her in Athens, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
She was going to school at Georgia.
Going to school, and I believe that she didn't she get a master's in.
She got she was going to go to vet school. She's got a master's in nutrition and a master's in dairy science, and she was admitted to vet school. And came. We were living on the farm. Both sides of my family are farmers, and
Right.
we we got a farm just outside of Athens, Georgia, and it's been in our family for 7 generations. And we were living on the farm in this little bitty, I call it old hippie house. It was just a little bitty house. And she came home one day and told me she thought we ought to move to Nashville because I'd be second guessing myself the rest of my life if we didn't give it a try. And I asked her, well, what about vet school? And she said, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always come back and go to vet school. So we moved to Nashville. That was 1982.
Did you have some cows, chickens, and stuff like that on the farm?
Yeah, cows, and we had chicken houses. We grew uh, fryers, like you'd buy in the grocery store.
Oh,
But
okay.
we didn't have layers or anything. We had the kind of we grew them for I think Central Soya maybe was the company, and they'd come get them and then they process them and they wind up in your grocery store.
What?
And we had cotton and wheat and corn and soybeans, and
Wow.
that was that's mainly what we farmed.
Wow.
But we don't farm anymore.
Well, I tell you what, farming is hard work. Hard work. I've had some farmers on my show. I've had, and it's just amazing how things that you have to know just to be a farmer. And
Yeah, it's a big job, no doubt about it.
you got a
My
new.
my family never had both of my parents grew up on dirt roads and were
Yeah.
born in the house and all that. And I remember growing up, my grandparents had outhouses and all that. They weren't well off at all.
My grandparents same way. We lived on the dirt road, and my grandma and they had an outhouse out there, which a lot of people don't know what an outhouse is, but we used to go out and as being kids, we'd throw rocks on top of the outhouse, and Granddaddy would go in and stuff, to aggravate him. But that was some good times back then. Now, did your parents or siblings or anyone sing besides yourself?
Well, on my mama's side, they sang in church, but
Uh huh.
on the Brown side, there was absolutely zero music, nothing.
Well,
And I don't remember really the Brown side of the family even going to church much, but my mama's folks went to church every time they opened the door. So it was, the two sides of my family were different in that
Mm-hmm.
respect. But yeah, my grandmother, they had a piano, and my grandmother could play a little bit hymns,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my mother's brothers could play a little bit, but nothing like anybody going out and singing
Professional
country,
and
country music or anything like. Not There was no sitting out on the front porch and singing, and listening to the Grand Ole Opry or any of that.
wow. Well, it, I think you broke the mold there for the Browns now. That
Well, I was definitely the first one in my family. I think and it's all because of listening to that transistor radio, I think. But my granddaddy told me on the Brown side that his granddaddy had a fiddle, and when bees would get in somebody's attic or get in the house, a swarm of bees, he said my great granddaddy could play the fiddle, and that swarm of bees would come and light on his head, his shoulders, all around, and he would just scoop them off like molasses and put them in a beehive.
wow.
He said people sent for him anytime anybody in the country got bees, somewhere they wanted to get the bees out of. They'd call on my great granddaddy, and he'd fiddle them out.
Wow, that's unreal. I've had a beekeeper on my show, and but never had one that played the fiddle to get them. That is amazing.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen that.
Oh wow. Now you've got a new record coming out, Memphis to Muscle. Is it out now?
Yeah, it's called From Memphis to Muscle Shoals, and yeah, it came out a couple of weeks ago. It actually debuted at #1 on the blues albums chart, so I was really happy about that.
Well, and that's amazing about your voice, that your voice is adapted to from blues to country to gospel. I mean, it's just it's not really set in stone for. You got some artists that theirs is just pure country, but you have a wide variety of genres that you go to sing. And now
So
this, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say I've always been able to sing all kinds of stuff. So
Now, what got you the idea from this Memphis to Muscle, getting all these people together on that album? I mean, was it something that you started out going to do?
no, that whole album was just for the fun of it, basically. I'd been wanting to cut a 1960s soul tribute album of recording soul songs from the 1960s, and there again, it goes back to listening to that transistor radio because that's where I heard all those songs anyway. And
Right.
I was just talking to Dwight Yoakam, and he asked me what I'd been doing. I told him about that I'd gone down to Muscle Shoals in Alabama and recorded these songs. And Muscle Shoals, Alabama is a big recording. It's a small place, but they've cut a whole lot of hit records down there, um, and a lot of soul music hits down there. And he asked me if I'd cut the song called "I'm Your Puppet," and I said, matter of fact, yeah. And he asked me if he could sing on it, and I told him, of course. And he went in a studio out in Hollywood and did his vocals. And when he sent it back to me, I listened to it, and I thought, man, maybe I ought to call Tanya up because I've sung with Tanya before, and then I just started calling people, and it turned into this 11 duets on this album.
Well, that is great. Dwight Yoakam, I remember Guitars and Cadillacs was one, get him on the dance floor real quick when I used to DJ at a little nightclub.
Yeah.
That would bring them out.
Yeah.
Now you had like Sam Moore, Wynonna, and uh, Betty LaVette, and you've had, I mean, these some great singers that you put together here on this soul album, and it just amazes me how you must have one heck of a phone list of great people.
Dude, I've been really blessed. I've met just about everybody you can think of, and they're all friends of mine. And you know, hey man, we all do each other favors all the time. So I was pretty confident when I called each of these folks that they were going to say yes.
Now,
Nobody turned me down. I was
well,
glad of that.
well, that's great because it's now and it's out in stores now, or is it still being processed?
Yeah, I think the CDs and the vinyl are at the manufacturers right now. Mainly, folks are buying it, you know, downloading it.
Oh, okay.
You
Because
know, the CD business is just about gone. Most folks consume music, you know, on the internet one way or the or
that download it, but you know the albums. I still love the albums. It's just
boy, I do
it's just
too.
just the sound of it and the like that, and to me, it's just a CD can't bring that particular sound.
Yeah, I like vinyl too. I like that the cover's big and you can read the credits.
Now, how did you get your start? I know you got to start as far as singing at university, but your big break of actually singing was maybe I don't know if your first was Kenny Rogers opening from him. What was your first opening, your first stage that you got on and sung in front of a lot of people?
Um, well, probably Kenny Rogers. I was singing songwriter demos, and and my voice got passed around Music Row on these demo tapes, and so I got a offer from Capitol Records and signed with them, and they put out this song called "I Tell It Like It Used to Be," and it was a hit. So they kind of threw me out on the road with Kenny Rogers. I mean, I went from playing little bitty bars to playing 20,000 seat places. And so it was the learning curve, man. I had to learn mighty quickly. You know,
Well,
it was like, hey, here you go.
you know, to me, now I talk in front of a lot of different people. Sometimes it's easier for me to talk in front of a huge crowd than it is a small one because it seems like you got to put your one-on-one, divided attention to that one where a big crowd you can kind of scan across. But 20,000 people, I'd be shaking in my boots for that many people. And
Well, I mean, it's just part of it. You just get used to it pretty fast.
now you had a song out that I just love. I'm a one of my other jobs is I'm a Presbyterian minister and was turning the wine into water. Uh,
Yeah.
now, how did you come about writing this? You wrote the song and sang the song, and it's a very moving song. And how did you come in making this song?
Well, I had developed a pretty bad alcohol and drug uh, addiction, and I mean I was still working, but I didn't cancel shows or anything like that.
Right.
But um, but every day, you know, my deal was that I would uh, drink all night. A lot of times it depends on where I was, but if I was on the road, I'd drink all night and pass out, sleep all day, get up, do the show, then drink all night, pass out, and get up and do the show. And sleep all day and do the show. It was kind of like a vicious cycle. Anyway, I had a couple of really good friends that knew exactly what I was going through, and so one of them had the idea of wine into water. And when we wrote that song, I really believe, well, I know for a fact it was a God thing.
Right.
And um, I think that it was about me from the very beginning. Um, it's turned into this, golly, it's hard to describe. God has used wine into water
Mm-hmm.
to help a lot of people. Um, I don't go a week where I don't hear from somebody telling me that wine in the water either saved their life, kept them from committing suicide, or something like that. Um, Somebody put it up on the internet, I don't know, 14 years ago, something like that. And it's had about 8 million views. There's about 20 different versions of it on the internet, on YouTube. And it's over 8 million views, and it never was a hit. People have found that song, addicts, alcoholics, and their families and friends have found wine into water, and it's become this recovery song. And you can go on YouTube and type in wine into water, and the first video that'll pop up, um, it's had, I don't know, 1,500 or 2,000 comments, and you can click on those comments and read down and see what that song has meant to people. Like I did a church Saturday night, and I had two guys that came through and told me wine in the water saved their life. Two different guys,
Wow.
and, and they told me one of them, well, actually three. One has been sober a year. He was a kid. He was like 22 or 3. One of them had 6 years, and one of them had a couple of years, and he'd been in prison. A lot of times people have to bottom out. They either get a DUI and get locked up. Something bad generally has to happen to somebody to get their attention, to get them to quit, whatever it is. Um, I know I looked in the mirror one day. It's just a cliche of a story. I woke up one morning hungover and as usual, and looking like death. I was fat, and I hated what I saw, and I think I finally had my heart right and my head right. And I asked God to help me. And uh, since that instant, I have not had one craving, and that's been about 15 years ago. I'd get on the horse and ride a while and fall off, and get on the horse and ride a while and fall off. I just couldn't stay quit. I went to rehab, that didn't work. I tried every which way, and nothing worked except asking God to help me out.
Mhm.
And it was like instantaneous. It was a miracle, no doubt. And
Well,
um,
I really believe that God gave you those words and that song to help you and also to
exactly.
use you as a tool to just touch others. And you probably didn't even think about when you was doing the song that if it's going to help anyone or not until you started getting these comments and started getting feedback from it. And that has to just glow inside of you that God gave you that gift.
Well, we didn't have a clue that it was going to help one person. And we wrote that thing like in 94, something like that. It's been around a long time,
Hmm.
but it's just grown and grown and grown into this. It's become my most requested song. And I mean, I've had huge hits. I've had #1 country songs and
Yes.
gospel. I've had some big records, but that little old wine in the water song has just done its thing. And I pray every day that God continues to use wine in the water to help people. I have no doubt in my mind or my heart that my whole career, my whole life has led me to this place. And that's to help people get sobered up and stay sober and to help educate people about mental illness. I'm very bipolar, and Sheila was able to get me to a doctor and get me diagnosed and get me on some medicine so I can live a pretty much normal life. And my doctor told me, he said, "Man, you know, a lot of that drinking and drugging you were doing, I'm afraid you were just trying to self-medicate and get yourself to feeling normal." So it's I think getting sobriety and getting my mental illness under control go hand in hand.
You know, that's a great thing. I'm glad you said that too, because you know we have so many people that's even on the streets that has the mental illness that uses drugs to try to cope while they're on the street or cope for their mental illness, and it's really sad. I went on the streets in Greenville to did some interviews with individuals there that was homeless, and to hear their story, because it's not all was drugs, all was alcohol. They had different stories. You had some that said, "Hey, I wanted to be this way," uh, and to me, it's kind of hard to believe that someone wants to be that way. And but it's touching to know that how you overcome it, and you being the star that you are, uh, the temptation is even greater than someone individual that just lives a normal life out here without all the limelight. And seeing that you overcome that, that's an inspiration for others like that. And I give kudos to your wife too. You've been married 44, 45 years, and she's with you through the whole time, through the good and for the bad. And I really commend her. You was blessed with a good wife, just like I was.
Hey, the truth of the matter is, if it weren't for Sheila, I'd be dead. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I'd be face down in a ditch somewhere. Sheila Brown saved my life, and she's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I love her very much. She's my partner and my best friend, and it's wonderful having somebody you know that's got your back and will tell you the truth, and
Right.
it's just a blessing to have somebody like that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I got a great wife. She's uh sometimes she tells me truth that I don't want to hear. but
Well, of course.
but she is good at. Let's see. Wife, she's come out of the room. I said Tracy Rash said, and Monty Allen said hello, and Robert Arthur. That's some of your people that
Yeah.
knows you good.
Rob-
Uh,
Robert Arthur's Robert Arthur's a great guy. He's a great songwriter.
yes, yes, and the KC show said the Graham Brown was 1 day away from being a Halloween baby, which was
Yeah.
his favorite thing to dress up as a kid.
Oh,
So
I don't know. I can't even remember that far back.
well, someone
Probably
been
probably putting a probably putting an old sheet on me or a pillowcase and cutting holes in it and being where I could see through it and being a ghost or something like that.
well, that's why we had to get creative when we was growing up. We dressed like a little hobo or something like that, or something that we can just grab a sheet
Yeah.
and do it. Uh, Now, when you were speaking about a movie, wasn't this was a film director out of Bollywood, India, was making a movie about wine into water, and the
Yeah,
movie's named Grace.
I just got a message one day and the guy told me he had s- seen Wine in the Water on YouTube and that they had a big drug and alcohol problem over there in India, and he made a feature film about it, and he sent me the trailer, and they're singing Wine in the Water in this language called Mizoram,
Wow,
and it's it's called Grace. That's the name of the movie, and it has a good ending, but there's drug deals going down and a guy shoots himself in the head and there's some heavy stuff, but in the end, it's redemption.
wow, wow, and you know, you never know. There again. There's that song "Around the World." that's
I
reaching the
know,
needy.
man. I read a message. A guy said, I just left a meeting in Birmingham, England, of 500 folks standing up singing Wine into Water. I just wanted you to know.
My God, I
I'm
bet
telling you, it's being used all over the place.
the when you hear things like that, especially that right there, just does it give you just cold chill bumps? I mean, knowing that
Just,
that's the power of God that used you for this.
I'm just so happy to serve our loving God we have. It's a privilege to serve God, and I'm I feel very grateful that I'm able to help people, and a song that I had something to do with is helping people. That's, you know, the 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 fact is that I make my living mainly from singing,
Hmm.
but Sheila and I's personal ministry that we care the most about over anything else is helping people out, trying to save people some trouble, trying to educate them about mental illness and help them get straightened out and get sobered up. That's what gives us the greatest joy. I mean, we feel like that's the ultimate thing that God wants us to do. I mean, hey, all this other stuff is really means nothing when you get down to it. It's how you live, and hey, I want to go to heaven.
Amen.
That's just the bottom line.
Amen.
I want to go to heaven, and I want everybody else to go to heaven too.
Yeah,
So I try to help people figure out a way to go to heaven.
and that's
That's my job.
that's the job that God gave us, wasn't it?
I think so.
I do too. Uh, I know we're getting close to wrapping up here in about 5 minutes. Uh, Somebody wanted to know what was your favorite car growing up?
Golly bum. I've had a lot of cars, a lot, probably 60. um, Oh, I've had all kind of cool cars in the past. I've had Cadillacs, Corvettes. I like hot rods, and I like old trucks
Hmm.
too. But I like any kind of car, really. I'm a fan of cars, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think one of my first vehicles was a 1946 three-quarter ton pea green pickup truck. The steering wheel was like 4 foot in diameter and had a 5 foot gear shift. You had to push hold one button down to get it to start. It had a starter in the floor. And,
Yeah. Oh, I know. I had a '50 model Ford flatbed that was the same way.
yeah, and just they just don't make him cars like that anymore, do they? These muscle cars that we used to have, and I'm glad you told me what the song, the muscle part, because I was thinking muscle cars, but that's where you went to was Alabama to do the recording and
Yeah, Muscle Shoals
muscle shows.
yeah, that's the name of the little town. But I love muscle cars. I mean, I've had Chevelles and Camaros, and I've had just about every kind of car you can think of.
Yeah, I've always liked.
Right now, I got a 2006 GMC Sierra pickup truck. Sheila's got a Lexus, and I got an old pickup truck.
Well, I just bought a 1999 van, a big passenger van with the back of it where I can haul some equipment stuff in it.
Yeah, well, that's good. Those things will haul a lot. They're big.
They do, and this has even got an awning that you crank out that goes out over it.
Well, good.
So if I get stranded on the side of the road, we just
Take your lawn chair with you.
that's it. That's it. One last question: how do you prepare to go out on tour? How do you get yourself? Do you have like a checklist to make sure you get all these people together and right? And it's okay. We're going here.
Sheila does it. Sheila packs my clothes. Sheila deals with the band. Sheila makes sure the bus is there. Sheila makes sure the bus is clean. Sheila makes sure the bus is filled up with diesel fuel. Sheila makes sure there's snacks on the bus. All that. No, she's an overachiever.
Oh,
She does a lot of work.
well, that is great. My wife follows in behind me. She tells me, especially if I put an apostrophe in the wrong place or something, she looks at details. She says, "You put that in the wrong place." I said, "Well, let's just go in here. I don't care. Get it straightened."
Yeah.
Well, T, I'm so
You know
glad.
what?
Go ahead.
I have found it's best just to do what she says and don't argue about it.
That lives to be. That's how you've been married for 44 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Well, T, I'm
She,
thankful.
by the way, she's standing right over here, so
Well,
she's hearing all this.
well, I seen you glance up, so I assumed she was nearby. My wife's in the other room listening to make sure everything's being broadcast over all these channels I'm going over. Uh, that everything's that I hooked up everything correctly. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and it's been a delight to meet you, and I'm just really was so excited about you coming on. I mean, I didn't broadcast it everywhere that you was coming on, uh, and and just to get to know you a little bit and hear you and your story uh, just enlightens me. And we keep praying for you and your family, and that you will
Thank you.
continue blessing people, and with your songs, with your music, and with your work in the community. And we're
Thank
so
you.
thankful.
Hey, well, God bless you, and God bless all your viewers, and God bless the United States of America.
Amen. We definitely need that. Well, you have a great, beautiful day. God bless you.
Okay, thank
But
you.
you're welcome. Bye bye. All right, you heard T. Graham Brown. I tell you what, wasn't that a delight? Well, I'm Jerry McKee, and let me get over here and click a couple little things here, and